good morning. Well, it is still good morning, isn't it? And welcome to the July Shotsuki service. And this service is in memory of our loved ones who passed away in the month of July. And also welcome to all the Zoom participants this morning. We will begin this morning with Mokuso, quiet sitting meditation, and Shomyo. Start now.
Okay, just give me 2 seconds, sorry. Okay. Yeah, so we'll start off with the mokuso now. Naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs.
If you wouldn't mind rising, if you can, those who can, please remain seated. But we will have the Vandana and Tisarana on page 325 in your service book.
It will also be on your screen in just a second. Oh, where did it disappear to? Sorry. For those of you, there we go. Okay, now I gotta share this. No, that's not what it is. Sorry, everyone. I'm just trying to share something here with the people on Zoom. Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham saranam gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. Dhamma saranam gacchami. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Sangham saranam gacchami. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Naman Dabs, Naman Dabs, Naman Dabs, Naman Dabs.
Please remain standing, and we will now have the Gatha Shinshu Shuka. And if you're looking at your book, it's on page 306. Thank you. Please be seated. Now we will have Sensei lead us in Sambujo, and that'll be followed by the Amida Kyo.
Namandobs, 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 namandobs. So during the sutra chanting of Amida Kyo, Misaya-san will call out the names of the Shotsuki families, and when your loved one is called out, please come up and burn incense. There are 2 incense burners, so please use either one of them. Thank you. Namandobs, namandobs, namandobs.
本日ここにうやうやしく産物牽制の奨学を仰ぎ、慎みてスティーブスン仏教会2023年7月小月法要を言修す。如来へ向の真実心をもって法恩の誠をいたし、仏徳を賛嘆したてまする。願わくは如来の大慈大悲心をもって無量の功徳一切衆生の上に栄光を下回らんことを。南無帰依仏、南無帰依法、南無帰依僧。This morning we have gathered here in the quietude of Amita's temple to commemorate the July 2023 Shotsuki monthly memorial service in honor of those loved ones who have passed on during this month of July. We faithfully recite the Nembutsu and humbly join our hands in Gassho. May the fragrance of incense teach us the purity of our intentions, and may the beauty of the flowers offered remind us of the glory of the Dharma. May the lights that burn brightly upon the altar lead our thoughts to Amita's eternal light of wisdom and boundless compassion that dispels the darkness of our ignorance. Namo. Satin Amida Kyo Nyoze Gamo Ichiji Monodai Sae Gonggi Juki Kodoku On Yodai Biku Shuseni Yaku Gojuning Kaize Dayarakan Shusho Jishiki Choro Jari Almaga Mogen Maga Gasho Maga Gasene Maga Kujira Rihada Shuriyanda Gananda Ananda Ragora Adai Minzuru Arada Karadai Maga Goinda Hakura Anurada Nyozeto Shodai Yeshi Myoyo Bodhan Magasan Monju Shiri Hoji Aita Bodhan Genda Gadai Bodhan Josho Jimodhan Nyonyo Zeto Shodai Bodhan Gyushakudai Gahindo Muryo Shoden Dai Shukuni Jimango Choro Shari Aljuze Sayo Kajuman Nagabada Sekai Myowaza Gogura Godo Hubada Go Amida Gongen Zai Sepo Shari Alido Gago Myoi Gogura Gogo Shujo Shari Gogura Gogudo Ijijuranju Ijijuramo Ijijugoju Gaize Shio Shuzo Inyo 고그라 고그도 시모지 악그도 그의 저망거주 지다이주니 고샤부지 시행가이로 공간을이 아리고 저저으로 가그야그이 공간을이 아리자고 적으시메노 이간지기시 지주랭에 다녀자리 조식이 저거 시기 여거 적으시기 작거 여그시기 벽고 미묘고 계서 자리여 고그라 고그도 조준 여세 그도 그쇼고 그 자리여서 입어서 고그도 조사 댕글 오거이지 저야로 그지니어 만나라게 주전노이 전항하이에 거저주묘게 그여다보 저만나그버스 속의 지기지겐동 그번지기 격여 자리여서 고그라 고그도 저준여세 그도 그쇼금 부시 자리여서 이곡을 조우 저적이며 사시기시 조벽고 그저그 어무자리 가려빙가 금요시 조세쇼시조 주야로 그지 서이와게 원고엔조 로건거리기 시집어다이버 하셔도부 여세도 고도시조 먼세 언니 가이지스 네모넨소 자리여서 녀모서 이시조 지스세사요 쇼쇼 쇼이자가 입어서 거그도 무삼마그슈 자리여서 거버서 거그도 쇼무삼마그도 시며 가교우지스세 쇼슈조 가이세 아미다분 조그려세는 쇼사 자리여서 입어서 거그도 미우서 이로 쇼거지 예어라 모스이미 묘워 이녀야 그센주가 너지 그사먼세 혼자가이 지낸요 내무드 내모 내소시시 자리여서 거부드 거그도 요준여세 그도 그쇼고
I will be calling out names of those loved ones who passed away in the month of July. If you're coming up a second time, please just gasho. Thank you.
자리
아쿠네 유이치.
오녀이 응아이 버서가고
아마다츠 조니. 아리마 켄니치. 아타기 카오르. Beaton Yoshimi, Clark, Sandra May, Domai Isa, Eskandari Kazuko, 浜出滝、浜出剛、橋本豊造、橋本蔦、日々愛花、肥後佐一郎、引田田津、広瀬太平、広瀬徳、広田光之、石田与吉、刈谷公子、岸和子、北川菊江、北川正、近藤博、小山千恵子、ハング・ローレンス、松村英吉、前出菊江、前出富野、三井健、If there's anyone else who has loved ones, I only have the list to last name starting with M. So if there's any of you who have loved ones coming up, please come forward. I'm sorry about this.
「
波世界阿尼吉嘎那不是渺茫个不是大眼根不是弥陀不是摩了小金不是鸟在多我个下去小不是个个我个个谁个就是说不三三对三世界是教的是个要多学就多心是修三我个西一个都个一三就不是有个能有家里有才有这个也没了这不是没了都不是没了都不是太高不是太妙不是好说不是有个不是有谁都高个下去就不是个个谁个就是说不三人对三世界只叫就是个鸟都许就都心在修上
Thank you, everyone. If you want to come up for someone who passed away from Stephen, you may do so.
年に開催勝負ずぐ上五年海徳大天王は徳なら三脈三宝大絶好者利をず尿道海と真珠がご牛勝武小説者利を百に四つ願五つ願五つ願六章阿弥陀仏国者世上人と海徳大天王は徳たら三百三宝大大井国土脈一生脈根性脈道所絶好者利をず小善男子善女に脈信者王道図願小異国土シャリオズニョガコンジャ小三小仏がしぎくど一生分の役小説が不可思議苦毒にさせご釈迦牟尼仏の一難下不思議のシャバ国土五直悪性高直現直煩悩直修上直妙直中徳は徳たら三脈三宝大一生修上節制一切世間なししよしゃりよずどちがを五直悪性行師難事徳は徳たら三脈三宝大一切世間世死難ししよ税一南部世死教医シャリオズ牛小ビク一切世間天にアシュナと文仏諸説願義真珠さらいにこ仏説阿弥陀経
Now it's time for our Dharma talk, so we'll ask Reverend Grant to give his Dharma talk.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our July Shotsuki Monthly Memorial Service. 皆さんおはようございます。ようこそ、この7月の、合同Shotsuki法要に、ご参加していただきました。Thank you to those who are joining by Zoom as well. Welcome. And I hope you can hear me okay. Michael, can you hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to just say a few words in Japanese first and then English afterwards. まず最初、日本語で一言お話しして、その後、英語で話ししたいと思います。本日はこの7月の正月法要ということで、皆さん、7月にお亡くなられた方々を偲び、こうやってお参りさせていただいているわけでございますが、この正月法要っていうのはですね、あるいは法事とかも言いますが、これは正月っていうのはその愛してる方々が亡くなられた月っていうことで正月で、法要っていうのは法の出来事、集まりっていうことですね。法の集まり。ですから、単なる亡くなられた方々を偲ぶだけではなく、やはりこの仏縁、亡くなられた方々を通してですね、仏縁をいただいているわけで、その法を聞かせていただけるのが一番大事であるわけなんですね。で、そこでですね、今日は仏説阿弥陀経というお経を、皆さんと一緒に拝読させていただいたわけなんですが、この仏説阿弥陀経というのは、浄土真宗の場合、浄土三部経と申しまして、3つの大切なお経の一つなんですね。仏説大無量寿経っていうのがあります。そして、仏説観無量寿経っていうのがあって、そして、仏説阿弥陀経。これが3つのお経ですね。で、そのうちの阿弥陀経を今日いただいたわけなんです。で、この阿弥陀経というのはどこでお釈迦様が説いたかと申しますと、祇園精舎というね、皆さんも平家物語の一番最初に祇園精舎っていうのが出てきますけど、これは実はインドのスラバスティというところなんですが、そこで、この阿弥陀経が説かれたと言われています。で、この祇園精舎っていうのは、あれは、2000年にですね、私はロイ先生もいとこさんもボブ・アクネ説も今日見えてますが、ボブとマウリ・アクネも一緒にですね、2000年に仏石参拝されたわけなんです。で、その中でこの祇園精舎にも寄ったんですね。で、たまたまですね、思い出っていうか今になって笑い話になるんですけど、そこには有名な、瀬戸内寂聴さんが見えてたんですよ。たまたまですね、偶然に。で、彼女はロケで撮影をしてたんです。その祇園精舎の説明ですね。で、それをですね、私はちょっと離れたとこから、有名な方なので写真撮ろうと思ったんです。それがですね、私のカメラが自動になっててですね、フラッシュを焚いてしまったわけなんですよ。そしたらその撮影中の瀬戸内さんが「あの人今フラッシュを焚いた!」って言われて叱られた覚えがあります。そういうそういう笑い話は別としてですね、この祇園精舎の場所でこの阿弥陀経というお経をお釈迦さんが1250人の弟子の前にですね説いたわけなんですよ。よく考えてくださいよ。今でですね、このスピーカーマイクロフォンを通してですね、 ここに 100人いたとしても、後ろの方の方、よく聞こえないと言われる方もおられるかもしれない。1250人の方の前でですよ、何ももちろん当時はそういうスピーカーとか何もなかったわけなんですね。それなりにこのお釈迦様が、この弟子たちの前で、説法されるわけなんですね。で、その、この説法、阿弥陀経というのは非常に、私たちにとっては大切と言われている理由の一つはですね、この普通お釈迦さんの説法というのは弟子の質問に対してお釈迦さんが答えるわけなんです。でも阿弥陀経の場合は質問がないわけなんです。ある日突然お釈迦さんがその大勢の僧侶の前で、特にですね長老と言われているシャリホツっていう弟子にですね、この話をよく聞けよと、これは非常に大切だよと、今西方の十国の向こうにですね、極楽というところがあって、そこに今現在阿弥陀という仏が説法していると。だからこれを大事に聞きなさいよってお釈迦さん自らですね、シャリホツに告げるわけなんです。で、これは何を告げようとしているのかというと、私たちの中でですね、この阿弥陀様という仏がですね、この一切衆生を必ずお浄土に参らせていただける。で、それはですね、いろんな仏の国があるわけなんですけど、その様々な仏さんも自分を褒め立てる、自分の名前をですね唱える、そういう仏になるとこの阿弥陀様が誓うわけなんですね。で、それによって一切衆生も必ず救われるっていう話が阿弥陀経なんです。で、その話を聞いてですね、このシャリホツをはじめにですね、皆さんが喜ばれるわけなんです。というのは、私たちがどんな生き方をしていても必ず救われる道がある。これは阿弥陀様に全てお任せすれば必ず自分たちも救われる道。それをですね、この私たちの正月には亡くなられた方々を私たちの先輩としてもう先立たれてお浄土に帰られた方々としてですね、今度彼らは私たちを導いていただいているわけ。そういうわけで、この毎月ですね、正月にはこうやってお参りさせていただき、また自分にもこの言い聞かせていただいている阿弥陀様の働きを言い聞かせていただいている大切なご縁であり、亡くなられた方々に感謝の心を持ってお念仏を唱えさせていただけるのが、大切な意義がそこにあるということを今日、簡単ですが説明させていただきました。最後には、合唱して日本語の方は、返させていただきたいと思います。ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏。Sorry, I said a few words and a few words turned into a lot more words, but I think Calvin pointed this out when we had the Nikkei reunion. He said, he gives the mic to me and it turns out to be a sermon. So I apologize, but thank you for joining us for the July 2023 Shotsuki Monthly Memorial Service. And this service is all about, in Japanese, there's a word that we say, goen. It's one of my favorite Japanese words. En means, in the dictionary, I actually found karmic relations. Karmic relations. We are here because of many unforeseen causes and conditions that have brought us here today, this morning. And as we reflect on this karmic relations, I'd like to begin by explaining, we say Shotsuki Hoyo in Japanese, or Shotsuki, sometimes it's referred to as a Hoji as well. You might have heard of people saying Hoji. Shotsuki means literally the month that the loved one passed away. Okay, the month that they passed away. And then Hoyo means a Buddhist gathering. Okay, so Shotsuki Hoyo, when you put it together, it's the Buddhist gathering on the month that the loved one passed away. So that's why we gather here for this service. But the important words in here is it's a Buddhist gathering. So you are here through our loved ones. They have brought us so that we may encounter the Buddha Dharma or the teachings. And this morning we actually chanted the Amida Sutra. There are three major sutras are the words of the Buddha. And there are three major sutras that are pertaining to this particular Buddha called Amida. And they are the larger sutra on Amida, and the meditation or contemplation sutra on Amida, and then this Amida Sutra that we chanted this morning. And I've mentioned this before, but of the three, this Amida Sutra is actually the shortest one. So you might have thought, oh, today's chanting is a little long. Well, we only actually chanted for maybe 15, 20 minutes. Okay. If we chanted the larger sutra, we'd be here for over 2 hours. So just to let you know, put it into context, right? But this Amida Sutra, it was chanted at a place called Shravasti. And this is one of the more famous sites that the Buddha gave his teachings at. It's well known because there was a very wealthy merchant by the name of Anathapindata. And this person, he heard the teachings of the Buddha when he was on one of his journeys. And Anathapindata became very, very moved by the teachings. And he invited the Buddha and his disciples to his home back in Shravasti. But before the Buddha and his disciples came, Anathapindata wanted to make sure that he could receive them well. So he wanted to create a monastery in Shravasti. And he looked for an appropriate place to build a monastery. And there happened to be a park owned by a prince of that area. His name was Prince Jeta. And so Anathapindata approached Prince Jeta to ask him if there's any way he could donate the land to build the monastery. Well, Prince Jeta was not a follower of the Buddha at that time. And he said, well, I won't donate it, but I could sell you that land. And basically he said, Anathapindata, what he did was he filled the land with gold coins. So every space that he filled with gold coin became, that's where he purchased. And so they built this monastery there, and it was called the Jeta Grove, the Jeta Grove Monastery. And it's said that this Amida Sutra was given there, and it was in front of, in the sutra that we chanted, it says it was in front of 1,250 disciples. 1,250 disciples, you know, they didn't have audio equipment back then. So just the Buddha speaking, and he probably spoke just in a regular voice. And yet 1,250 disciples could hear the teachings of the Buddha. And so amongst those 1,250 disciples, in this Amida Sutra, it starts by listing some of the prominent monks and disciples that were in attendance. And of them, the eldest or the elderly monk, who was one of the 10 great disciples of the Buddha, his name was Shariputra. And Shariputra is the person that the Buddha, Shakyamuni, addresses this Amida Sutra to. And this Amida Sutra, for us, we say it's very important, first of all, because most of the other sutras, how they come about is that a disciple usually asks the Buddha a question, And then the Buddha answers in reply to that question. But this Amida Sutra is different because without being asked anything, Shakyamuni Buddha says, Shariputra, listen, I'm about to tell you a very important teaching. And he goes on to say that in the West, very distant in the West, there is a place called Skavati Vyuha, the Pure Land. And there, presently, even now, as we speak, there is a Buddha by the name of Amida, who is giving the Dharma. And this Dharma and this Amida is a Buddha in which the Buddhas of all the 10 directions praise the name of Amida. And when we listen to the name of Amida and we recite the name, we rejoice and we are guaranteed of birth in the Pure Land. So this is what this Amida Sutra is all, very, very briefly, what it's telling about. But this Shariputra is a very interesting fellow. So before he became a disciple of the Buddha, he was a youth in a place called Rajagriha. And I won't go into where that is, but it's also famous in our sutras. And Shariputra was actually born, his birth name was Upatissa. And he actually started off not by becoming a disciple of Buddha, but he and a friend of his named Kolita went in search of how to get rid of suffering in their lives. And they started by following this ascetic by the name of Sunjaya. And the ascetic means that you do very difficult physical practices to try to rid yourself of the impurities of the being. But one day, this Upatissa encounters one of the Buddha's disciples, and he has a conversation with him because he notices that this disciple, the Buddha, looks very serene and calm. And he learns about the Buddha's teachings. And the one thing he learns, he hears, is this disciple, his name is Asaji, tells him that all things come about because of causes and conditions. And when those causes and conditions cease to be, then it also ceases to be. So he's basically saying the teaching of what we call impermanence. That all things come about because of causes and conditions, and when those causes and conditions cease to be, then it also ceases to be. And so Upatissa and Kolita become so moved by this teaching, they go to become disciples of the Buddha. And that's where he's given the name Shariputra, and Kolita is given the name Moggallana. Moggallana, we know, is very famous for Daobon, which we'll be talking about in a couple weeks. But the Shariputra goes on to become one of the 10 great disciples of the Buddha. He's known as the elder of the Sangha. And there's a story associated with the Jeta Grove, as I mentioned earlier, that this very wealthy merchant created this monastery for the Buddha and his disciples. And so they invite the Buddha and his disciples to go to this monastery. And along their way, they were going from a place called Vaishali to Sravasti. And it's a number of days' journey by foot. But along the way, they stop off at this one monastery. And many of the younger monks, who are much stronger and healthier, arrive at this monastery first. And they start to clamor and argue about who's going to get what room to sleep in at this monastery. So by the time that Shariputra arrives at this monastery, the rooms are all filled. And so Shariputra, without making any complaints or anything, he ends up sleeping outside the monastery under a tree. And the next morning, early in the morning, the Buddha, not realizing this, the Buddha goes out in the morning and he sees Shariputra and he asks him, why are you sleeping out here? And the Shariputra said, well, the monastery was full. So that day, the Buddha calls all the disciples together, and he says, who do you think should have the highest seat? And who do you think should receive the food first? And of course, everybody says, oh, the Buddha. Of course, Buddha should be, we revere the teachings of Buddha. And then the Buddha tells the disciples a story and to give them an example. And he says, in the distant past, in the foothills of the Himalayas, he said there was a pheasant, elephant, and a monkey. And he said they lived together, but they were always fighting. They were never living in harmony. And so one day, the three of them decided, we will make an order in which the eldest, we will respect and follow the teachings of the eldest. So they try to figure out who's the oldest. And they're living under this humongous tree called the Nigroda tree. And it bears very beautiful fruit. But the elephant says, he says, I remember when this Nigroda tree was so small that I would be able to walk over it and it would brush against the underside of my chest or my belly when I walked over it. And then the monkey said, I remember sitting on the ground and picking the fruit from on top of it. So meaning that he's older because the tree was even smaller. Then the pheasant says, I remember many, many years ago, there was a beautiful Nigroda tree elsewhere, he said. And I ate the fruit from that, and in my droppings was the seed for this Nigroda tree. Okay. And so the animals then realized, okay, the pheasant must be the eldest. And from that day on, they honored the pheasant. And the pheasant also taught them the teachings of harmony. So the Buddha explains this. And what he's saying is that we need to respect our elders. We need to respect those who have more experience than us. And in fact, the Shotsuki Hoyo is one way of respecting our elders. Those who have passed before us are all our spiritual elders, in that they have experience that none of us have had. They have all passed on. And yet, not just impermanence, but they also teach us that there is a oneness. Even after we pass on, if the causes and conditions exist in our hearts, our loved ones still are very much with us. And when we hold the memorial service, we are reminding ourselves that yes, they are still very much with us. And when we put our hands together, it is an expression of gratitude, saying, I am one, or my thoughts are one with those loved ones who have passed on during this month of July. So at this time, again, I'd like to ask you, please join me as we put our hands together in Gassho. And remember, as Shariputra, listen to the teachings of the Buddha of Amida, and then realizing that in reciting the name, we are listening to the Buddhas throughout the 10 quarters to rejoice and receive the name Namo Amida Butsu. So please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sensei. Your stories are always interesting. Now we will have the Gatha Nembutsu, and this is where we miss Genevieve, our organist, who passed away several months ago. I'm sure you've noticed that we don't have an organist now. I believe it's on tape, so if everyone would please rise, those who can, we will have the song, Gatha Nembutsu. Thank you. Please be seated. We will now have the offertory.
Please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
This brings a close to our July Shotsuki. If you look at your program here, there's a lot of coming events, July being very important because of Obon. And as you can see, there's Obon at all the temples close by. So Fraser Valley has theirs on Saturday next week, and then Vancouver has theirs, and our Obon weekend is the 15th and 16th. So we have the Odori on Saturday, and lots of fun and games for the children, and then our service is on Sunday. So please join us if you can. As I look down, I see a regular Sunday service on the 23rd, and then there's the annual golf tournament. So you golfers, I'm sure you all know about that one. And another regular service on the 30th, and then the August Shotsuki happens, memorial service happens on Sunday, August the 6th. And then our busy sensei is on holiday for a while. Do you want to carry on?
So
Sensei?
there's actually a couple of changes on the program.
Oh.
The 13th of August, Roy Sensei, I was going to ask Roy Sensei to conduct the service because I'm on Vancouver Island for the Obon Cemetery tour. But Roy Sensei also had something planned that day. So there is actually not going to be a service on the 13th of August. Okay, so on your program it says there is, but there isn't. And also, but on the 20th, 27th, and September 3rd, Roy Sensei said that he could lead an informal service. So while I'm away on holidays, Roy Sensei will still conduct Sunday services, except for the 13th. So no service on 13th, August 13th. Okay?
Thank you, Sensei. Okay, so that's all straightened out. Let me see. I think that calls for snacks and ocha at the back room. So thank you to the Fujinkai ladies for always providing snacks for us after our Shotsuki service. Is there anything else?
Yeah,
that
please
I've
make
missed?
sure you come up
Yes.
and get your homyo, and please take the correct one.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you, everyone.